quiet hum of the night was a stark contrast to the storm raging inside Kyousuke's mind. He sat on his bed, his usually confident demeanor cracked by weeks of unexplained fatigue and declining mental health. The doctor's grave expression confirmed his worst fears.
There's strange rhythm in your pulse, suggesting presence of a toxin that dulls the mind, Mr. Kyousuke.
The doctor said, his words precise and cutting.
Thankfully, we caught it in time. With treatment, you'll recover.
Kyousuke's chest tightened. Toxin. How? Who? But the questions were fleeting, drowned by relief that his mind wasn't slipping through his fingers just yet. The antidote worked over months, and though the recovery was grueling, Kyousuke's resilience saw him through. Once fogginess subsided, his focus returned. His business empire, shaken by his absent-mindedness, was his first priority. Deals were renegotiated, losses recouped, and Kyousuke clawed his way back to the pinnacle. Life resumed its glittering rhythm of meetings, galas, and accolades. Yet one thread dangled loose in the tapestry of his life. He never sought to uncover who did it. He dismissed the idea with a shrug.
Someone jealous, perhaps, doesn't matter now.
He told himself. His wealth and status were intact, his health restored. Why dig into shadows when the light was so blindingly bright? But shadows have a way of creeping back. Ryota watched from those shadows, his envy festering into something darker. Kyousuke's mind fogginess hadn't been enough to topple him. In fact, he seemed stronger, more untouchable than ever. Ryota's failure burned, but it also forged a sharper edge to his malice. This time, Ryota wouldn't rely on subtlety. He needed a plan that would not only harm Kyousuke, but strip him of the very things he valued most: his empire, his reputation, his pride. At their next gathering, Ryota played the role of the devoted friend perfectly, laughing at Kyousuke's stories, applauding his successes, even offering unsolicited advice to strengthen his businesses. Kyousuke, ever confident in his circle, suspected nothing. Weeks later, whispers began to surface in the business world. Anonymous reports of embezzlement tied to Kyousuke's name, fabricated messages and forged documents implicating him in fraudulent deals. Once loyal investors started pulling out, Kyousuke's carefully built empire began to tremble. Ryota, of course, was the first to offer a shoulder to lean on.
It's all lies, Kyousuke,
he said, his voice dripping with feigned sympathy.
But the court of public opinion is ruthless. If you need my help, I'm here.
Kyousuke's jaw tightened as he stared at the canceled deals in front of him. He couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, a ghostly echo of the Toxin incident. But who could be orchestrating this? In the shadows of his doubt, Ryota smiled to himself.
Pride has blinded him once before,
Ryota thought.
And it will again. This time, I'll make sure he falls so far he'll never rise.
The hum of the investor's lounge felt oppressive. Kyousuke sat at the head of the table, his once imposing presence now diminished by exhaustion. He combed through reports one after another, each filled with bad news. Suppliers were backing out, citing logistical issues. Manufacturers failed to deliver on deadlines. Inventory shortages were becoming routine, and angry customers were leaving in droves. His empire, once a monument to his brilliance and perseverance, was crumbling before his very eyes. Kyousuke gritted his teeth, his mind racing through possibilities.
How could this happen?
He muttered under his breath, his fingers gripping the edge of the table.
We've survived worse. Why can't I fix this?
Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Kyousuke poured every ounce of his energy into salvaging what remained. Meetings with suppliers turned into desperate pleas. He cut margins, renegotiated terms, and even dipped into his personal wealth to keep operations afloat. But no matter how hard he worked, the problems multiplied like a hydra. Solve one, and two more took its place. Unbeknownst to him, Ryota's plan was unfolding flawlessly in the shadows. Ryota had struck at the lifelines of Kyousuke's empire. He bribed suppliers to withdraw their contracts, offered manufacturers lucrative deals to prioritize other clients, and spread false rumors about Kyousuke's company's impending collapse. The toxin this time wasn't in Kyousuke's blood. It was in his business, infecting every corner until it was beyond saving. And as Kyousuke fought tooth and nail to stop the downward spiral, Ryota moved like a predator stalking its prey. He played the supportive friend, offering Kyousuke words of encouragement while secretly engineering his downfall.
You've done all you can, Kyousuke,
Ryota said during one of their weekly meetups. His voice was dripping with mock sincerity.
Sometimes it's better to let go before things get worse. Maybe sell off parts of the business to stabilize the rest?
Kyousuke dismissed the idea with a wave of his hand.
No, I built this from nothing. I won't let it go.
Weeks later, the final blow came. A critical contract was canceled, one that Kyousuke had relied on to keep his company afloat. The news hit like a hammer, and within days, his empire was on the brink of bankruptcy. That's when Ryota struck the final blow. During the auction to save Kyousuke's failing empire, Ryota stepped forward as the highest bidder. His offer was clean, his reputation untarnished. In the eyes of the public and the investors, he was a savior, a wealthy benefactor stepping in to rescue what Kyousuke could not. Kyousuke stood in the back of the room, his fists clenched, his heart pounding as the gavel came down. Sold. His life's work was now in Ryota's hands. Ryota turned, his smile sharp as a blade.
Don't take it personally, Kyousuke.
He said, his voice low enough for only him to hear.
It's just business.
Kyousuke's chest burned with fury and despair.
Just business?
He thought, but he knew this was war. The wind howled through the shattered windows of the abandoned building, the storm outside roaring like a beast unleashed. Rain lashed against the walls, but inside, the air was colder than the tempest beyond. Kyousuke stood in the dim light, his eyes fixed on Ryota, whose figure was framed by the glow of moonlight.
I need to know,
Kyousuke said, his voice steady despite the storm in his chest.
Why did you do it? Why betray me? Was it just for the money?
Ryota chuckled, the sound as sharp as a knife.
Money. Don't insult me, Kyousuke. It was never about the money. It was about you.
Me?
Kyousuke stepped forward, his fists clenched.
I never wronged you, Ryota. Everything I have I earned with my blood and sweat. You…
Earned?
Ryota interrupted, his voice rising.
You think you earned your success? You think the rest of us weren't working just as hard? You were lucky, Kyousuke. You flaunted your victories while we were left in your shadow.
That's what this is about?
Kyousuke snapped.
Your ego? I built that empire on my own, and if I have to, I'll do it again.
That was the breaking point. Ryota's face twisted with fury. He turned to the shadows, and figures emerged. His men, their silhouettes menacing in the dim light.
You'll do nothing, Kyousuke.
Ryota hissed.
Because tonight, I'll make sure you don't get back up.
The first punch came out of nowhere, sending Kyousuke staggering. Then another and another. The blows rained down like the storm outside, each one stealing more of his strength. He fought back, his fists connecting with some of the men, but they were too many. Blood dripped from his lip, his vision blurred, but his resolve didn't waver. When Ryota stepped forward, his voice dripping with venom, Kyousuke spat blood onto the floor and glared at him.
You'll never have what I had. No matter how much you take, you'll still be you.
Enraged, Ryota kicked him to the ground.
Finish him!
He growled, turning his back as his men advanced. But Kyousuke wasn't finished yet. Summoning the last of his strength, he fought his way through the onslaught. A broken window offered his only chance, and with a desperate leap, he plunged into the rain-soaked night. He ran, the storm swallowing his gasps for air. Lightning illuminated the dense forest ahead, the rain blinding him as he stumbled deeper into the woods. His body screamed with pain, and every step felt like his last. Finally, he collapsed, his face pressed against the wet earth. The world blurred, and darkness crept in. Then, faintly, he heard it. Footsteps, crunching on leaves. His heart sank. Had they followed him? But as his fading vision caught the silhouette approaching, his breath hitched. It wasn't one of Ryota's men. It was her, the woman who had always watched from the shadows. She knelt beside him, her voice firm yet gentle.
Kyousuke, don't give up now.